This is it. I think so. Hope so. I might have messed something up. But hey, it's all about
Now
the
I'm on.
it's all about the humming here.
That's right.
Okay, so let's see what's going on here.
You got a new hat.
That was donated to the happy hour um, by a listener, and this is a Veterans Foundation that's run out of Stockton, and they're coming on tomorrow night.
Very cool.
Mr. Hope is, and so first there's a company in Salt Lake who's doing some plastic. What do you call it?
Molding.
I've been working all day.
Mm-mm.
No,
Me too.
recycling,
Uh-huh.
and so there's a company in Salt Lake that's doing some recycling, and so that's an interesting story. So they're coming on real quick, and then after that we've got the Hope for Life Foundation coming on. They sell, they've got hats and different stuff. Anyways, if you watch the other show, you'll see about it tomorrow. But it's a local Tooele County Veterans Foundation. But anyway, so tonight,
Welcome to the show.
yeah, welcome to the show. There's a lot going on in the world right now. I didn't have a lot loaded up, but there's a baby white rhino born in a zoo in the United States. I believe it was San Francisco.
It's pretty cool.
And I'm telling
Considering
you,
on the verge of extinction.
you want to draw me in, throw up a baby animal. I mean, we saw that last week with the baby gorilla.
Yeah.
I saw that little thing with its little big eyes.
They're so cute.
Yeah, and so,
All babies look like baby gorillas when they're first born.
all babies do,
Pretty much.
really.
Yeah, they're wrinkly and they've got bulgy eyes.
You know what? I read a study somewhere that babies have the big eyes to make adults more prone to love and protect them.
They
Makes
look
them-
more endearing.
Makes them cuter.
Yeah, I've heard also that babies, when they're first born, take on, well, females in particular, they look first like their fathers, and that's also to preserve the species.
Really?
Yes, because they
So you're
look
saying
more
dads
male.
have big eyes and are wrinkly?
Yes, wrinkly and big eyes.
I better let.
The mascot in. But yeah, they say that is also to preserve the species.
That could
They
be.
look less vulnerable.
That could be. I could believe that. Definitely.
And then they start to take on the mother's characteristics as they age.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, where we grew up as a small tribal units in the beginning, where we evolved from that, I could see things like that happening. I mean, there are certain societies where they practice the Sherpas, your husband's ascendants.
It's from whence he comes.
They practice a bigamy where it's one woman and all the brothers marry one woman, and they've tried studying it, and what they've found is, one, they have lower survival rate for female infants, which could be a sad cultural thing, or it could be just where they are so harsh that
Right.
but
the environment.
infants, honestly, boy and girl infants probably can handle harsh environments exactly the same. I mean, they're almost
Sure.
identical. Now the brains are different. Infant girl brains generally tend to be a little quicker, a little more social. I mean, you and me, I'm older than you, and you beat me at everything when we were kids. Tying shoes, potty training,
Yeah.
That's not saying a lot, though. I mean, it's not like I set this huge bar for you to defeat. But anyways, but yeah, but what they do is, I don't know the internal workings of the Sherpa household, but it seems like the one female marries brothers, 3, 4. The one story I read, there were 5 brothers that married her, and they, I guess, rotated in and out. When a baby was born, the men essentially were just uncles. So the baby had all of these uncles.
You know, that in that harsh of an environment, I think that likely evolved because the man of the house takes care of the family.
Oh yeah.
And if there are more men in the household, then there's more taking care of being done. And that really
yeah.
is a harsh environment.
Yeah, that environment is rough and harsh and everything else.
And they were and probably still are primarily hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers.
Betsy is tired as well.
Yes. Gather-hunter works too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sorry, I'm just getting a quick share knocked out. As everyone probably has caught on by now, we no longer do the live to Facebook just because of the kind of
the nuance.
Well, and also kind of a technical thing. The program we have can only commit to one program at a time and everything else. And a smarter man than myself could easily figure all this out.
Well,
but let's remember that
we get what we get around here.
Yeah. I'm what you get.
Yes, you are IT.
Remember when we went to
You have been IT before.
When we went to Vegas,
yeah,
and you got me into your business party, and
I made you be IT because I said nobody would talk to you if you were IT.
It worked.
See, then they wouldn't know that you were crashing the party.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot
That
of fun.
was honestly the coolest party I've ever been to.
Yeah.
The people cruising around on stilts.
Mm-hmm.
A taco
they had
bar.
hired Cirque du Soleil to do the entertainment, and they were like mid-party entertainment where they just kind of wandered around. There was just a couple of disco floors.
And they had a open beer bar, a tequila bar, a whiskey
sushi bar. Oh, I had sushi and
tequila.
I had sushi and Bloody Marys. That is a terrible combination coming back up.
That would be like the
it was awful. I haven't had that combination since.
That would be like the chiladas.
Oh,
Except instead of clam juice, it's sushi juice.
freaking sushi juice and rice. Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, but no, that was a fun party. I had a gangbusters time on there. And there's other things in the news that everyone's been watching, but
yeah,
a
couple of big ones.
Yeah,
we may focus on the big ones. The baby rhino's awesome, but
the baby rhino. But we are kind of pinched for time, and I understand. I am burning a lot of time up sitting here chatting, and but I'm trying to get sharing done at the same time. But you know what? I think we may as well just jump right in.
Dig in.
So
sad.
Travis Scott had this concert on the 5th, I believe it was called the Afterlife Tour or Astro World Tour. He had this concert.
I didn't realize he was this popular. Like, who is this guy?
Well, I've got some comments on that. Now, I don't think I can play some things on here.
Yeah, copyright.
As much as I want to. And you know what? I may just say screw it and go for it. But so Travis Scott has his Astro World Festival. Okay. And everyone is saying it was a satanic ritual. Now, our very first shows?
Our very first show was Satanic Panic. Yeah.
And that's...
We've been diving into this forever, guys.
We're old enough to have lived through it,
Yeah.
That was back in the 90s.
And I'm telling you, it's kind of catching new wind.
Well, and here's another side note. This CRT push that seems to be coming from the progressives. And I it reminds me of the push that the right wing did in the 90s to to keep religion in schools.
Mhm.
It reminds me of that because they wanted to force prayer in schools and have God mentioned during science class. We're going to talk about evolution. Now, some people think evolution, but we all know that God. And
Right.
so that's what this reminds me of, the CRT coming across. I mean, it for months now has been ringing alarm bells in my head like we've hit a fulcrum.
Yes.
Because
It
we
has
hit a
swung
fulcrum
the other
then.
direction.
But also the 90s, for anyone who didn't live there, I want you to picture the 90s as peak freedom. The 90s was,
It really was expansive.
I mean, clothing got awful,
Terrible
style got awful,
hair.
music was pretty good, but and there was a lot of naivety.
Oh yes.
Like the sexual predilections of the youth today and the TV and everything. Back then they hit it with innuendo, like you watch Seinfeld or Friends.
Oh,
It was
I've
there.
been rewatching Seinfeld and I'm like, I can't believe you're still on the air.
I'm
They did a midget episode that I watched the other night. I was like,
I know they couldn't do it nowadays, but
yeah,
but the way you're going to get yelled at for that
little
M word.
person. Yes.
Yeah, I like to call them, vertically challenged individuals myself. But anyways, no, but the naivety, like all the innuendo was there, but they hid it. But at the same time, there's a satanic panic. Just to cover that real quick. There were some law enforcement officials. There was some, what else was there? Law enforcement. There was like child services out of L.A.
Mm-hmm.
There was,
It was about it was about a daycare.
It
started with
kicked
a daycare.
off with it kicked off with daycares because there was that one in California. Then there was one in Austin. The people in Austin spent like 40 years in jail.
Yeah.
And then got let out and had to get paid by the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And the kids are saying there's underground. But we need to redo that show because that is one that is, I don't think is up anymore. And that's when we first started. The sound was awful. We didn't know what we were doing.
We still don't.
Okay. We knew less than we knew now of what we were doing. But anyways, we're gonna have to redo that.
Yeah.
But
I think so. I think we'll have to revisit it. But this is kind of along the same lines.
So Travis Scott has his concert on the 5th. And his concert's in Houston, Texas at Astro World, I guess. Is that like the Houston Astros?
I think it was the festival. They called it Astro World.
Yeah.
But I think it was at their big ballpark.
Whole gaggle of bands there, whole bunch of stuff. But he was kind of a headliner there. And I'd never heard of him. But then again, I'm not in the rap world. I'm an old white man. So,
Excluded.
But I'm sure he's a talented artist. And
there were so many people there.
Well, they had like 50,000 and it was only able to handle something like 40. And then I've heard that they partitioned them off, and how they partitioned them looked like an upside down cross. So many stories out there. But anyway, so we're just going to kind of kick it off. So this is, we're going to show a picture of Travis Scott right now. Nice looking young man. I mean, yeah, he likes to tattoo up onto the head a little too much, but that's kind of the style nowadays. I mean,
it's his cred, his street cred.
Yeah, I don't get it, but he's smiling, looks like a nice guy, and humming, and everyone kind of says that you can tell it was satanic by the entrance. So right now, for those watching, I've got pictures of the different entrances, and I'm going to break down. We'll go backwards on this, but we got the fiery mouth of Baal, which Baal was a god in Canaan. Yeah, it was a Canaanite god that was a sacrificial god. They sacrificed infants to Baal. That's the story we get. Of course, this is filtering. The temple was like walking through a mouth. And then you got the mouth of Moloch from the movie Metropolis, which the movie Metropolis I've never seen. I only can give you a synopsis of what I know, but it's like a futuristic dystopian movie, Dishumanity. I should really watch it one day and see what it's about. I've heard it's not too bad. And then you've got The Harrowing of Hell by Hieronymus Bosch, and that is kind of that's a picture. It shows the people who die go through the mouth into hell, and the mouth is the entrance. But then you've got the astro world entrance, and
it looks similar to Travis Scott.
it's supposed to be Travis Scott's head, and to go inside you walk through the mouth and walk through a tunnel of the mouth, and it looks like it's probably a blow up, like a slide you'd rent for Christmas or for birthdays, to put in the yard in the summer. But anyways, and it may not be, it might be, but it just looks like that to me. It kind of has like rubbery looking stretch marks, but you walk through a mouth to get in there. And again, like I said, they oversold this. So he must be popular. They oversold the tickets. Too many people were there. So then his concert goes on, and he has a stage. Okay, first of all, let me explain. He's wearing a black shirt that has, it looks like a portal or a door on it, and blue bubbly figures, like not stick figures, but cartoon figures, are jumping into the portal, and they're just blue and normal. And then they come out the other side, and they're red with horns. So that's another thing everyone says, and that was kind of a picture he used for kind of promotion.
His marketing and promotion, yeah.
And then also his stage looked like a mountain and everything else. And in the promotions, it had two hands reaching out that had eyeballs on the hand. So it had all this.
The all-seeing eye. It's all very intentional. It's not one thing, but the entire event, his particular stage setting and the entrance and his clothing, it's all very, very intentional. And I think that's what people are picking up on, is that it's not just one thing. Like, there wasn't just, like horns in the back of the stage. That, like, they're connecting the dots. That, do I believe Travis Scott had a huge hand in this creation? Probably not. He's probably got people that do this.
Might have, but then again,
but he has to approve it all, and I mean,
well, yeah. And you look at his stage, and his stage looks like concentric rings that drift back, making it look like a portal. There's fire and lights, and all this scary stuff around it. Anyways, while he's there, a lot of people kind of start collapsing, and the death toll right now, last I checked, 200 injured, and now it's 9 dead. A 22-year-old died. I think the youngest that died was 14?
14. He was crushed.
And was he crushed after he went down? Now, they went down. Now, they are in Houston. I don't know what the temperature's like there now, but Houston is the devil's taint during the coolest times of the year.
That's true.
It's hot as all get out down there all the time. But anyway, so
he was the founder and the headliner of this event.
Yes.
And things seem to be under control, or at least managed,
and this is where
until he took the stage.
And
this is his home turf.
This is where he's from. Now, there are also reports, but we'll get into those in a minute. So anyways, while this is going on, too many people are out there. They're kind of crowded in. I've watched videos of people saying how they tried saving people and everything else, pulling them into the VIP section, and other people in the VIP section kind of got mad at him and started, berating them for pulling injured people in. People were collapsing. There's videos of people collapsing. He's standing on a man lift, still singing and dancing, and watching them collapse, and he doesn't stop. And that's where I blame him. He should have stopped and managed it then.
Did you ever see that Michael Jackson performance? He was performing, I think it was in New York City, in Times Square, and a bug walked onto the stage, and he stopped the show, and he called security over, and he said, "Don't kill it, just take it off the stage."
So he went all Jainism on it. There's a religion that respects bugs. It's Jainism does that. There's certain particular branches of Buddhism that do as well. They don't. They you'll see them. They like very careful how and where they walk. Don't tell them about microscopic bugs that you can't see, because I mean you want to see someone come apart. But they're extremely peace loving people. But anyways, so he keeps going, and people are falling, and I'm sure everyone's heard the story. But so everyone's saying this is satanic ritual. There's a big thing about it. There's even videos out there where they take you know how ghost hunters look for the globes in pictures and videos?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's one video, this on Isaac Weishaupt's thing, which is cool. The guy's the same name as the guy who started the Illuminati. And he's an anti-Illuminati guy. He's actually, from what he says, a descendant of him. But he may have stole the name. I don't know. Anyways, if you're into conspiracy fun, you know, check it out. He's all about the music industry and that. But anyways, there's a video looking straight at the stage. You see Travis out there, you know, getting down and, you know, I don't know, dancing and singing or rapping. And you see a shadow come right down from right above him and kind of come down right into his body. Now, could it be a bug flying in front of the camera? Sure. But he says it's a demon entering his body, which is fun. It's fun to think about that the world is much more interesting than just this tactile thing we feel. But then again, it's also scary. So fun and scary, I guess they mix. Anyways, so everyone's claiming this devil worship thing. Now, I recall Joe Rogan had a special on Netflix called Triggered.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got the special booted up, and I may as well just try to set it up and play it. You know, I mean, I don't see why not. And I'll play it kind of, you know.
You'll just have to watch how much time you play, because that's
what we've got here is Joe Rogan kind of does it's about the Kardashians and those people around the Kardashians, and he goes into how it's kind of weird that he goes into how it's kind of weird that you know, Bruce Jenner becomes a woman and gets called beautiful, and he says, well, that's not technically beautiful. And I mean, Joe Rogan is easily one of the funniest humans to ever exist. You know, and then he reflects it back on himself that he wouldn't look beautiful either and everything else. But then he talks about a common situation with people who kind of lose their mind. So Bruce Jenner is married to the Kardashian mom. I don't know what her name is. Mama Kardashian. Right?
Kris Jenner.
Sure. I have never once seen the Kardashians. A Kardashian could walk right up to me. I would not recognize it.
You would know by all of the security and.
Okay, well that I might know.
Yes.
But anyways, other than that, like I wouldn't know what any of them look like. Okay, so Bruce Jenner's dating a Kardashian, and now this is going to be Joe Rogan talking about kind of what he thinks happens. So how long can we play?
Oh my gosh.
All right, that's enough. If you haven't seen Triggered, you need to go watch Triggered.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
It is one of the best YouTube specials ever. And then last week we mentioned Kanye having his...
That is yay. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yay. Having his revival church where he is salvaging...
They look straight out of Handmaid's Tale.
Well, he's salvaging Senor Manson. He's going to fix Manson. He's going to cure it. Anyways, so Travis is dating this person I'm showing on the screen now. That is what, Kylie Jenner? Is that her name?
Connect the dots, people.
Okay, so
You can almost see her raven-like feet inside her shoes.
and who was the dude who, like the basketball player, almost killed himself at the House of Ill Repute?
He was with
Odom?
yeah, it was Odom. What's his name?
Odom. Anyways, so
He was with Chloe.
the Jenners. I don't know which one's Chloe. This one's Kylie.
Kylie, and then there's Kim, and then
Kim.
Courtney and Chloe.
What does Courtney do? And then there's the brother.
Yeah. Who knows what he does?
He's like the janitor.
He doesn't have butt implants, so he's unimportant.
I don't know, but anyway,
Maybe he does.
So what if?
I don't know.
What if this whole thing is what Joe Rogan said in Triggered? Seriously, go watch it. It is hilarious. It will offend you if you're easily offended.
You will be triggered.
And you should be. But it is hilarious when he talks about how they whisper in his ear so that he could be on the cover of Vanity Fair. And so anyways.
Well, I will tell you that this is not the first concert. It will not be the last concert.
Well, oh yeah.
Where there have been deaths. I mean,
Utah had that one where the
Indiana State Fair, 56 died.
This one I think was so rough.
I think that
because of the optics and that he kept going.
Yeah, so
like he had to have seen it. He was maybe 20 feet above him in the video, looking at them. You see him looking at him. The guy pans the camera up, pans the camera down. Seeing the young guy. I mean, the guy looked at it. It had to have been a teenager.
Yeah,
maybe
21.
20.
Yeah,
and
then
kept
there's
going.
There
and
was
then kind of
so
turned
much,
and did a robot dance.
There was so much video as the emergency equipment is trying to make it to these people. The fans are jumping on the equipment and videotaping themselves dancing on top of this emergency equipment. People are literally dying. They are showing video of like chest compressions and people are dancing around the person getting chest compressions.
Yeah. So there's also the Houston police chief is talking about one of the security guards felt a prick on his neck.
Oh,
so
yes.
someone may be going around
injecting
people like fentanyl. I don't know if
because a lot of it was cardiac arrest.
Yeah. Now, does fentanyl obviously can cause, but are they testing for that? Are they? I don't know. So if they're pricking people, of course, I don't know if fentanyl has to be injected. I think it might be one of the opiates that can be absorbed.
It can be absorbed through skin.
Soft tissue. And then also, I'm sure there's a little bit of ecstasy and LSD use and things like that. So, all that together, I mean.
It's likely that this whole satanic ritual would have been a topic of conversation without the deaths.
Oh, yeah.
But it's ramped up 1,000% because of the way he responded. And his fan base is dwindling.
Are they?
Oh, yes. Right.
They're deserting him?
They're deserting him because he allowed these people to die.
I saw he did a video where he did an apology on, I think it was Twitter or TikTok or something. And then he's also come through to where he's paying for the funeral ceremonies for the people who died and things like that. So that's good. That's stand up. Now, maybe he was up on that stand and lights in his eyes and he just sees movement down there. Maybe.
I would argue, just devil's advocate, no pun intended, that he was likely caught up in this huge swell of people, this big crowd, all of the action, all of the glamour, and lights are on him, and he's doing his thing. He's likely done hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of preparation and rehearsals, and it would be difficult to not get caught up in that. And you also just assume that the event staff is going to handle it. And so do you stop the show? It's likely that some of that was going on just to speak for the devil himself. Um, I'm just saying. I think that we need to have some balance when we look at this situation, and we need to remember that concerts have been historically very dangerous events.
Well, that many
The
people.
standing room concerts like that, they get insane. Bangkok had 100 people in one concert in 2008, crushed.
Mm.
100.
Probably, Ladyboy fell on it. Anyways, also, this is unconfirmed, but I've heard reports and I've seen pictures that supposedly he posted, but I haven't double checked and I haven't jumped on his Twitter to see what he's doing because, my life's kind of short. Anyways, he posted pictures of some of the people who died, dead, pictures of them dead, to his Twitter, and wrote things like, "Hey, this guy sacrificed himself for my concert," and something like that.
Bad taste if that
So,
happened.
If he did, but that could easily be faked. And one, I'm not qualified to research anybody's Twitter, and two, it could be fake. So,
And
anyways,
it doesn't change anything.
It really doesn't.
I mean, honestly, I think that there were likely these pivotal moments where he could have, maybe changed the outcome. It's hard to say, though, because once these crowds just get stacked in, imagine trying to unstack them, all these barriers are up. You can't get to the people. You're trying to back off the people at the back. They don't know what's going on at the front. They keep pushing forward. I mean, they're just historically really dangerous.
But I want to pose another thing. So, Travis started out his career. Now, he runs his own production company now, but he started out under Kanye West's label, which is probably how he got pulled in to the Jenners. Are they Jenners?
Yeah.
Or Kardashians?
They're Kardashians, but Bruce married Kris after the girls were born. Now, Kylie is a Jenner, and her twin sister is a Jenner. Those are actually...
There's a twin?
Yeah.
That
Kylie,
stays hidden?
No, she's pretty much out there, too. Not as... She does modeling.
Does she have the old stuff in her butt, too?
Oh, they all do. Except for Kris. I don't think Kris... Well, maybe she...
Anyways, we'll... God, that's like...
Yeah.
Putting a lift kit on an old car.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kris. That was wrong of me to say. Still a lovely lady for 80. But what if they are luring these guys in and messing with them?
It may not be as sinister as that, but when you look at what goes on and the lengths that these people have to go to get really big names, it makes you kind of question. Like, if Kris was like, "I'll tell you how to do it,"
that's all that these Kardashians and Jenners are about.
Yeah,
that's all they care about is fame.
Anything.
They don't care about.
They don't do anything. None of them have a big foundation that helps people. I mean, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
They shop and gossip, and people record them doing it.
Is that all that show's about?
Pretty much. Their daily life of
so it's like a soap opera without a story.
Yes. It's like.
But what if they are demon spawn? Like Dad made a deal with the devil to get OJ off. The devil said, "I get your soul in 3 to 5 years after," because he died of cancer 3 to 5 years after. But then your children work for me.
Yeah.
And so what if the children are working for him? So Kim obviously breaks out by putting a pornographic home video on the internet, and it just keeps snowballing.
Kanye has actually accused the Kardashians. I mean, just straight up said that they were holding him hostage.
And
he's a little loony. I'm
He's
gonna
been
give him
tossed.
that.
He's been thrown in a mental hospital like
Mhm.
2 or 3 times. So
Mhm.
yeah. So what if? What if they just keep funneling anyone they can and just grabbing them and breaking them and grab them and break them,
I don't know.
grab them and just
You gotta start making some
gotta
connections.
hand them over to the big guy.
Nothing good.
The big guy downstairs.
Nothing good happens after a Kardashian has laid their claws into you.
After they kick off their design.
Y-
Anyway, so
Feel so bad for those
yeah,
the families of
and
those
Travis
people.
Scott, reach out to Kanye, grab yourself a white ninja costume,
Y'all need
join the prayer
Jesus.
circle, jump in there. I mean, sounds like it'd be a pretty cool crowd to hang out with.
You'd fit right in.
Okay. So, meat of the story. Now, Betsy doesn't know about this show yet. For L.A. Marzulli that we had on,
Yes.
did the Nephilim show.
Uh-huh.
This ties into L.A. Marzulli. All right. Soon after the Afghanistan invasion, 2002,
Uh-huh.
a U.S. Army patrol goes missing. They're a foot patrol up in the mountains outside of Kandahar. They go missing. No one can reach them. No one can find them. Humana. So after a few days, a special forces unit is sent out. Not a unit, I should say a special forces team, an A team, is sent out to locate them. So this A team goes to where they were originally, where the last report was, and they're patrolling around. They're following a kind of a mountain shepherd pass up, and they start seeing military equipment laying around, a radio, a rucksack, a article of clothing, a weapon. They start seeing stuff just kind of scattered on the ground. They're kind of following this trail of kit just kind of laying on the ground. There's blood on some of it. It's pretty tore up. They're following it. They're, destroying the radio and stuff on site because you don't leave that for the enemy, and you're packing heavy already. You're not. So you just destroy, throw an incendiary grenade on the radio, gather the weapons, throw them in a pile, incendiary those. You don't want to turn them over to any enemy that might be in the area. And they keep going up this mountain pass and keep just kind of trailing this all this equipment on the ground and just everywhere. And they come over like a little ridge. So there's this little ridge, a little rise that kind of, not a plateau, but it plateaus out and goes back 20, 30 feet. And at the back of that, there's this cave, right? And they see kind of an abundance, a scattering of, there's human bones out in this cave entrance, but also the uniforms. Now, they don't see any fresh bodies out there. So it looks kind of like a rubbish pile for a bear or something, like stuff the bear doesn't necessarily want to attempt to digest. He kind of kicks out of his cave. So one guy, point mans it up, starts making his way across this plateau. They see some slight movement in the back of the cave. And he's weapon ready. He's moving on it. The other guys are doing an overwatch position, which means they're hanging back. They've kind of grabbed cover. They don't know if this is, a Taliban group in there, or maybe Afghanistan has an errant grizzly bear living up there, or, something else. He's moving up, and from out of the cave, a big red-haired giant comes charging out. Now, it is said that this big red-haired giant, one, you could smell him. He smelled like decay. He's wearing what looks like kind of sandals or foot coverings made out of just rough hide, like he just gathered whatever rawhide. He comes running out, spears the guy that's on point, spears him, and in the picture I'm showing, this is a depiction of that, lifts him off the ground with the spear. The spear is said to be 15 feet long. The giant is estimated to be between 12 and 15 feet tall. The giant spears him, kills him. The smell is overwhelming. And so the whole rest of the unit starts firing on the giant. And the leader of the unit yells out, aim for the head, aim for the head. And once they aimed for the head, it took a solid 30 seconds of sustained fire with 5.56 and 7.62 by 51 ammo to bring it down.
But they did.
Yeah, but they brought it down. They killed it. Anyway, so as they're running up to it, let me explain this giant. So the giant, they didn't measure it there on the ground. They just estimated it to be between 12 and 15 feet tall. Red hair. Now, we've covered red hair giants. Like the red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave in Nevada. The Native Americans talk about it. He smells awful. It's just the grossest smell that they can imagine, and he's huge. He is massive. They, kick him, make sure he's dead, recover their buddy who he killed, and so they call for an evac. So they bring out, and the way the soldier calls it, he says they bring out this huge helicopter, and they drop down a net and say, we got to haul it back. So they kind of struggle to get him on the net, and they lift him up, and the helicopter net harnesses him and flies him back to Kandahar, then to Kabul, then to Pakistan. And for anyone who doesn't know where Afghanistan is, it's right between Pakistan and Iran. Kabul's in the south, like almost dead center south. And then from there, it gets flown to where'd they say, to Kuwait, and then from Kuwait they don't know where it went. Anyway, so they get it back to the base, and they're kind of checking it out, and it has 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Oh,
so that's one of the stories of the Nephilim.
Yeah.
That's one of the stories that came through all those Indian stories of the red-headed brothers, the red-headed giants, the red-headed cannibals. 6 fingers, 6 toes, massive. They weigh him when he gets there. He weighs 1,100 pounds.
Holy cow. Holy cow.
Yeah. Now, that's when you think about it. If the thing is 12 feet tall,
You would think it'd be double of an average human.
but you also got to double it sideways too. So it kind of more than quadrupled. And then also, this thing is a ruffian that lives out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's probably not lean.
Right.
So anyway, so this red-headed giant, which leads me, L.A. Marzulli did the interview of the guy. His name was Mr. K. He was said to be a sergeant first class that was on that A team that went in search of it. Now, of course, Snopes and everyone else comes out and says, oh, there's nothing in the Department of Defense to verify that this ever happened. Would there be?
No. Absolutely not.
Do you think the U.S. Army?
This story would disappear.
Do you think the U.S. Army's going to sit down and write, we found a giant. Went to war with them, killed, 7 guys. Because you got a patrol, an infantry patrol, 6 to 7 guys, and then another guy died from the A team, which is on average 6 guys.
So it must have ambushed the original team,
or just straight rushed them,
and they were just running and just dropping things along the way,
killing them, tearing them apart. I mean, they finding blood on these weapons.
Oh, is they're finding them scattered?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they probably gave sustained fire.
Yeah.
But a regular infantryman, albeit a deadly machine, is not going to have the same skill, technique, and training as a special forces soldier,
Correct. Especially when you're up against something that
up against anything,
forces. You've never seen anything like this. You don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're used to training as a team, more cohesive unit. They learn to focus fire better, to read each other's intent and everything else. So they'll respond better. The infantry team would do great, but all he'd have to do is get a hold of one of them right off the start. Yep. Morale dips. They all start getting scared. He gets a second one, and they start maybe doing
scattering or trying to scatter.
Yeah. And they don't do a controlled retreat. They don't do a bounding retreat or anything like that. They just kind of do probably a few of them probably dead run,
Fight or flight,
watch their
man.
buddies die. The thing's huge, smells like death. They all of them. That's one of the big perceptions came out of this is he smelt like a decaying animal.
And that would be, I'm sure, due to
Over
his diet and just
and well,
the
and
way that they live.
we'll go some more explanation. So they said his fingernails had like this mossy growth on them, and they were all jagged and kind of long and gnarled and kind of looked more like claws just because they were just rough fingernails. His toenails, the same thing, got the 6 fingers, 6 toes, red hair, giant, same things you get out of the Indians. So what if? So the story behind the Nephilim is the Nephilim. Okay, angels come down, help make man. They like man ladies, so they come down, breed with the man ladies. They have these giant children, which are, red hair. They're 12 to 15 feet tall, cannibals, very strong. And it said, I mean, like Goliath was thought to be a Nephilim. You get these stories, and the flood was partially sent down to destroy the Nephilim, or what some people interpret to be called the Watchers. But then again, there's other interpretations that the Watchers were a form of angel and they were neutral or positive. I don't know. I'm not a biblical, scholar, but I do enjoy this stuff. So anyway, so they get him hauled off. The special forces team says he disappears. We can't find him.
Of course.
He's nowhere. And then you get reports of the Wild West when they used to find giants that the Smithsonian would hide them, and they're buried under the Smithsonian Castle in Washington, D.C. But so L.A. Marzulli gets his story, and I don't know, fairly or unfairly, he's discredited quite often, but we really enjoyed chatting with him, and he was a nice guy, very knowledgeable, and he kind of brought receipts. Even if those receipts are just elongated skulls, it's still kind of a receipt. But yeah, 2002, we're just barely in Afghanistan, just barely beat it. And they run into a red-haired giant.
It makes me wonder if one day we'll find in the genome sequence a recessive gene that can be tied back to these really giant-like, figures.
What if they're a whole different species? Like some people try to claim that these red-haired giants are Denisovans. Because all we have of Denisovans, if I remember, is a small bone in the pinky finger and a molar. I believe those are the 2 bones we have. And they're said to be, they're thought from those sizes to be the same size as a Neanderthal. Kind of the same density as a Neanderthal. But what if it is a young one and said to be a female? I don't know how they figure out, maybe a DNA test, but what if the Nephilim don't have a sex that we recognize, because we don't hear stories about them breeding.
Right.
We hear stories about them being made. But then again, you'd think they'd have to breed. But what if it's a young female Nephilim 6th finger bone? So it's even smaller. What if their mouth is made different? I don't know. Just a lot of interesting stories,
2002 is not that long ago.
Well, it is not. Now, this is a story that came out, if I remember, it's on L.A. Marzulli's The Watchers 10 series, which he makes videos about. He's a Nephilim and mound builder researcher. And if I remember, that came out in 2012. So 2015. So this would have been 13 years later. But, what if there is this breeding with like some of them made it through the flood? Like, did the earth totally flood? Did it cover all the tops of the mountains?
Or were there high points where they could retreat to?
Yeah, places they hid.
That would be terrifying to come across something like that.
You think, man?
Like, I saw a photo of a hunter who killed a wolf. The thing was enormous.
Yeah.
And I thought, that would be scary.
Yeah.
But this,
There's maybe 4 dog breeds on Earth that are bigger than a wolf. You know,
it's insane to think that this is the story that came out.
mm-hmm. It is. It is. And so, of course, the A team gets back to base. They all got to sign NDAs. Now, remember, Special Forces soldiers, U.S. Army Special Forces, they're all NCOs. So they've all got dedicated at least 5 or 6 years into the Army. And then they've gone through some pretty extreme training and a lot of investment into their abilities. So if they sign an NDA, they tend to keep to it because they've got a lot hovering over their heads. They could have some stuff taken away from them.
And can you imagine if
How do you
the
sleep?
world at large knew about this?
Oh,
Like if it was public information, they would be blowing holes looking for these
what
creatures.
if one day, like the Smithsonian just opened up its doors and you went inside and all this stuff was in there?
Oh.
Like they had this guy in like amber.
I mean, there is some safety to ignorance.
And well, another thing, imagine if we're playing that this story is true right now. Imagine being one of these soldiers that goes into the goes downrange, fights this 12, we'll just call it small end, 12 foot tall. That's double the size of me, double the height. So I would be staring at groin.
Yes.
Maybe a little above it, maybe a little below it. I don't know what his dimension, leg to torso ratio is, but I'm a meat gazer at that time. Imagine how your perspective on the world would change overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd mess you up.
Do you sleep
How
after that?
do you retell this story?
Yeah. Where do you go?
Yeah.
Where do you go? Now
it's such a drastic paradigm shift from everything you knew to nothing.
Yeah. And what's the answer? Do you become like those TV show veterans where you go buy a farm in the mountains and go?
Do you become David Icke?
Well,
kind of lose your noodle and just spew forth all of the things you think you know?
What do you do? But anyways, you can go watch the interview with L.A. Marzulli. He's interviewing, he calls himself Mr. K, but one of the senior NCOs on this Special Forces A team. And I don't know. How do you...
Does he seem credible to you in the interview?
It's a heavily edited interview. So it does seem credible. And his face is doing the whole blotchy thing.
It's all distorted.
Yeah. I mean, it's not... Remember when we were kids when they did like the Unsolved Mysteries? They would put you in front of a window right when the sun was coming through. And then when you talked, they sound like that. And it didn't matter. You could be like you'd have a hat on, glasses, and the light sources behind you. So you're just shadow. Nowadays with technology, they blur your face and do all that other stuff. But yeah, man, I've been feeling way old lately. Because yes, I'm watching the Seinfeld kids,
I am too.
and it throws me back to that time of
Yeah.
more innocent. And back then, imagine how our parents felt, how uninnocent we were. But nowadays, we look at just what's on, I don't know, 5 o'clock primetime TV,
Yeah.
and it's shocking. It would have got at least a PG-13 rating when we were kids.
It's crazy.
And
And yet I watch some of these episodes of these older shows and
Well,
I'm like, they would never fly today. I can't believe this hasn't been
were-
boycotted.
we had a lot more free speech. As long as you didn't touch sex or a direct showing of violence, you could say things. Because we were closer to a time when the 90s people weren't sensitive about
Right.
race wasn't a sensitive issue. Height, definitely not sexuality. I mean, it seemed like you had some old people who were like anti-gay marriage, but all the rest of us were kind of like, "Hey, we don't care."
Yeah. You do you.
It was. I mean, for a long time, like, um, you had like Liberace and that, but I mean, we had Culture Club and all that, and we were just whatever. We didn't care.
You liked it, great. If you didn't, great.
It wasn't a subject. It wasn't.
Right.
And nowadays, it seems like being accepted is not enough.
Hmm.
You need to be
Heralded.
venerated,
Yeah.
and that seems to be a common thing. And I just want to close out with today is Veterans Day, and to all you veterans out there, thank you. I hope your day has been quite good and safe and productive. I hope those of you who came back with a higher price paid are finding solace in the rest of your life and showing strengths that you may have learned while you were in the military. I do follow a lot of veterans online, wounded veterans who really who've taken their situation and made it I don't want to say a positive, but made it a show of strength, a show of kind of defiance to their situation, and I hope that for everyone out there, because I want all my fellow, I'm a veteran myself, I want all my fellow veterans to experience the best they can from life. I want them all to find success and happiness and joy and and everything else. But yeah,
Happy Veterans Day.
and especially lately I've been thinking a lot about a veteran group that we're quickly losing, and that's the Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
And you guys, I don't know if anyone's ever looked into Vietnam, but as far as contact goes, that's our most contact ridden war. It's not got the highest death toll, and that may be because not as many troops went over there or whatever else. But when you look at days in contact, days out of contact, it's the one that sustains the highest numbers. Now, Iraq and Afghanistan come pretty close. And maybe that's the insurgency model of war that causes that, because you're in amongst the populace. Whereas earlier wars, it was two armies that pushed across fields and conquered ground. These last ones were police actions. And I just kind of, when you guys come back and there was at times a lot of hatred for your guys' service, and so I just want to say thank you for answering the call. It's horrible that our government chose to put you in a situation, and then when you came back, the government had kind of betrayed your trust, and therefore made the people turn their back on the government, but they chose to take that out on you because you were a target that they could get their hands on. But anyways, yeah, thank you, veterans. And I thought this, talking about one of my favorite subjects, red-haired giants,
So creepy.
and also military service on the same day, sounded like a good subject for me to cover. And I'm working on a couple more, like we announced last week. Roles are slightly changing. Now, Betsy tends to have like a whole preview. I tend to shoot off the hip. So most of the stuff, I just read stories and try to retain what I can in my head. And so it might be a different level of story. Hopefully, I get better at it. I hope I can, I tend to remember dates okay, though.
You're like a vault of
Vault of
historical
useless information.
information. Yeah, I'm like, remember that one thing that happened in that one place? I think it was like desert there.
Now, here's another question. So this red-haired giant was found alone.
Yeah.
Do you think
Do
that
you think it was alone?
well, do you think they live alone and then maybe once every 10 years the female goes into a what do you-
Gestation. Not gestation,
gestation's when you're
but
pregnant. Goes into what do they call
a
it?
cycle
But what do
of,
they
s- of cells.
fertility
Yeah.
zone anyways, that's a word for ladies. No, ask your gynecologist, they can break it down. Anyways, like once every 10 years and then they have like a meetup. Like
You would think something this large would require lots of calories, so it is more likely to live solitary, and then
Mhm.
their areas to be spread apart
I
just for the
wonder
sake of the
it
species.
probably acts like bears.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably like the cubs get 1 year with mom and then they've got to get
yeah.
gone. And so but maybe, they do like a mountain man rendezvous. Once every 10 years they
Mountain.
meet up and it's just a wild imagine the howling of that orgy. And just wild and
Maybe
crazy.
that's what the sirens are that people are hearing late at night.
Dude, those sirens, we do need to do a show on that. Now, they haven't been as bad now. 2015 was rocked with those sirens. I never heard them, but all the videos had them.
Yeah.
But yeah, but what if they have like a giant rendezvous, They all gather up and throw their, people teepee tents together and what if the shoes it was wearing, because it said rough leather hewn, what if that was people's shoes?
Oh.
Like
They're like the Ed Gein of
like
the.
had Muhammad on one foot and Saim on the other. Like, because I imagine its diet would be shepherds,
Anything that size,
mountain militia.
they're
Now,
eating anything.
and Kandahar is in the south. So the Northern Alliance, those are the Mujahideen. The southern area is Taliban. So the mountaineers down there would be Taliban fighters and more Punjab Pakistani.
I wonder if they have stories. We don't have a really good relationship, so we don't get a lot of their stories. But it'd be interesting to find out if historically they talked about these creatures.
If you want me to nerd out on Afghanistan history, at one time we were friends with the Taliban and supported them over the guys that we initially put in charge of Mujahideen. So trust me, this goes out to my foreign friends. If the U.S. government comes up to you and says, "Hey, let's make a deal,"
say no.
Don't. They haven't been very good at it.
Yeah.
Right? You know what? Ask the Cherokee, Comanche. Ask all them. How'd that pan out for you? And it's gone like that through history. Hey, and if you're a government official watching, I'm not picking on you. It's just we have a political system where motivations and wins can change every 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You got to expect that. I mean, you look at the Mexican Civil War, which was, right around the turn of the century. All of the 1800s was the Mexican Civil War. We supported one guy, and then we had a political switch. Then we supported the other guy, and then we had we supported Pancho Villa 3 different times. So it is what it is. Anyways,
it's the whole thing.
Everybody, have a wonderful night. Hopefully, if there is giants, and I love this picture.
I do in a weird way.
Yeah,
It's sad.
just really a rugged looking picture. But anyways, if hopefully if we do meet giants, we can figure out how to speak Nephilim or half angel, or they've got a name for their language.
They do?
Yeah, angelic is a name for a language. I might know it somewhere. Anyways, but have a good night. I'll figure out the name. We got the next show coming up is planned. Gonna do something. I think we're gonna do another kind of story time, future fiction.
Future fiction. Oh, yeah. Can you imagine?
Oh, dystopia, my favorite subject. I'm feeling lately like I want to try to figure out how to write a book.
Well, now you just talk and it types it for you.
Yeah. I don't know how.
Chatter on.
I know. I need to do that. But anyways, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Have a great week.
We hope you have a good week and everything else. Veterans, thanks again. Be